Let me ask you a question. Why is it that some people can have a conversation with AI and walk away with genuinely deep insights, while most people just get common sense dressed up in pretty language? The answer isn't about which AI model you're using, it's about the quality of your question. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A mediocre question plus the most powerful AI on Earth still equals common sense in fancy packaging. But a deep, well-structured question plus AI? That gives you insights that transcend the boundaries of your own cognition. Welcome to the Predictive Path Method, a questioning methodology inspired by one of history's greatest strategists, the Zhuge Liang Principle. In the classic Chinese novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang gives his general 3 sealed sachets before a dangerous diplomatic mission. Each sachet contains instructions to be opened at a specific moment: when you arrive, when the year ends, and when you're being chased. Here's what's brilliant about this. Zhuge Liang couldn't predict the exact words people would say or the specific events that would unfold. What he could predict was the structure, the invariant patterns of human behavior. He knew that a mother would protect her daughter. He knew that a ruler would fear invasion. He knew that a princess would command authority over soldiers. These weren't magic. They were strategic markers placed in the flow of time. And this is the core insight of our method. Stop trying to predict content. Start predicting structure. 3 paradigm shifts. To master this approach, you need 3 fundamental shifts in how you think about AI interaction. The first shift: AI's response is raw material, not a finished product. Most people treat AI output as the final answer. Experts treat it as the starting point for deeper exploration. The second shift: you cannot predict what words AI will generate, but you absolutely can predict the structure, the positioning, and the logical order of a well-framed response. This is what I call structural prediction, humanity's superpower over machines. We design the architecture. AI fills in the details. The third shift: from demanding answers to catalyzing emergence. Here's what emergence means: a system exhibiting properties that none of its individual parts possess. Insight isn't a sentence that AI writes for you. Insight is the chemical reaction that happens in your brain when you juxtapose multidimensional information and force it to collide. Your job is to create the conditions for that collision. 3 engines of thought. Now, to actually do this, you need 3 intellectual engines. Think of them as precision instruments in your cognitive workshop. Engine 1 is systems thinking. Every complex situation has an underlying skeleton: stocks that accumulate, flows that change the rate, and time delays between action and consequence. When you ask AI a question, stop asking, "What happened?" Start asking, "What structure produces this pattern?" That single upgrade transforms you from a passive consumer of information into a structural analyst. Systems thinking also teaches us about feedback loops. Reinforcing loops create snowball effects. Success breeds more success. Balancing loops act like thermostats. They resist change. And 3 classic system archetypes keep repeating across law, business, and life. The quick fix that creates side effects, the symptom solution that weakens the fundamental cure, and growth that hits invisible limits. Engine 2 is information theory. Not every question is created equal. Information theory gives us a way to measure exactly how much a question is worth. Low entropy means low surprise. Will the sun rise tomorrow is worth almost nothing. High entropy means high uncertainty, and reducing that uncertainty is where real value lives. Think about signal-to-noise ratio. A vague question like, "Review this contract for me," is all noise. but a precise question like, as an M&A attorney, analyze the closing conditions in Section 4 and produce a risk matrix ranked by probability and severity. That's pure signal. The goal of every question you ask should be to eliminate the largest block of uncertainty in the shortest time. Engine 3 is complexity science. In complex systems, something magical happens. Local interactions between simple agents produce global patterns that nobody designed. Birds don't have a choreographer, yet a murmuration creates breathtaking waves. This is self-organization leading to emergence. The key is dancing on the edge of chaos. Too much order, and you get stagnation. The same boring answers recycled. Too much chaos, and you drown in noise. The sweet spot, the edge of chaos, is where maximum creativity lives. And to stay there, you use the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act, continuously adapting as new information arrives. The three-dimensional coordinate system. With 3 engines running, you need a navigation system. Picture a three-dimensional coordinate space. The z-axis is depth. You drill from surface phenomena, what happened, down to mechanisms, why it happened, then to underlying structure, how the system works, and finally to paradigm, the fundamental assumptions that make this system possible. The y-axis is context. You scan across the subject, the object, their relationship, and the environment. The x-axis is perspective. You rotate through evolution, comparison, causation, and value judgments. High-quality questioning isn't a straight line. It's a three-dimensional trajectory through this cognitive space. The 5-stage practice cycle. Theory is worthless without practice, so here's the action manual. A 5-stage cycle that is deliberately circular, not linear. Stage 1. Cognitive preparation. Before you type a single word, take inventory. What do you already know? What structure do you predict? What's your goal? Stage 2. Path planning. Design your opening structural prediction question, the one that sets the architecture for the entire conversation. Also, design backup paths, because reality rarely follows Plan A. Stage 3. Dynamic execution. This is where the OODA loop comes alive. Hold your planned path loosely. When you spot a high-value signal that you didn't expect, pivot. Like a general on the battlefield, your sachet's structural logic tells you how to adapt. Stage 4. Information integration. Convert scattered findings into a structured decision tool, a scorecard, a matrix, a framework. Transform raw information into actionable architecture. Stage 5. Reflection and optimization. Which predictions were accurate? Which were wrong? What would you do differently? This reflection generates new questions, and the cycle begins again. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. A real case. Imagine your friend is a delivery driver who got injured in an accident. The platform denies responsibility. Most people would immediately ask AI, "Can we sue?" That's a trap. You're asking for a conclusion before establishing the structure. Instead, before asking a single question, I design my sachet. I predict that the core issue is the employment versus contractor classification. I predict that court decisions will form a spectrum, not a binary answer. I predict that there will be a rights and obligations comparison between the two categories. Then I open the conversation with this structural prediction, and AI responds with an equally structured analysis. During the exchange, AI mentions something unexpected. Courts increasingly use an entrepreneurial spirit test as a deciding factor. This wasn't in my original framework, but my OODA training tells me this is a paradigm-level signal. So I pivot, explore this branch deeply, and it becomes the most valuable insight of the entire analysis. The result? a decision scorecard that gives a non-expert structural understanding deeper than 90% of practicing professionals. The deeper truth. Here's what this method really teaches you. Traditional learning is top-down. Read the textbook, memorize the rules, forget them next semester. Predictive path learning is bottom-up. Encounter a real problem, design your questioning architecture, and discover knowledge through use. What you learn through questioning, you never forget. And here's the meta-observation. This entire presentation is itself a sachet. The cover page predicted the structure. The chapter transitions reoriented you. The case study applied multi-perspective analysis. And this conclusion completes the loop. In an age where AI handles 99% of execution, your value lies in judgment and human connection. Machines handle the how and the what. Humans are responsible for the why and the who. Structural questioning doesn't just lead to structural responses. Structural questioning leads to a structured life. The sachets are in your hands. The cognitive adventure has just begun.